Now I'll call this meeting to order. We have a quorum. This meeting is being webcast live and recorded. The recording or webcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. Closed session items are as follows: recommended expulsions, recommended suspended expulsions, public employee discipline, dismissal, release complaints, conference with labor negotiator. 2.5, conference with real property negotiators. 2.6, anticipated litigation. And public comment on closed session topics. General public comment on any closed session items will be heard at this time. Pursuant to board policy, the board may limit individual comments to no more than 3 minutes and individual topics to 20 minutes. It is recommended you begin your comments by stating your name. Seeing no public and Monica has no comments, then we will adjourn to closed session. We will now convene the regular session. Alondra Moran will serve as Spanish interpreter for this meeting. Meeting attendees who would like to listen to the Spanish interpretation of this meeting, please pick up headphones from the table located in the back of this meeting room. This announcement will now be shared in Spanish.
Buenas tardes, soy Alondra Morán y serviré como la intérprete al español para esta reunión. Invitamos a los asistentes de la reunión que deseen escuchar la interpretación al español, el ir por audífonos a la mesa ubicada al fondo de esta sala de reuniones. Gracias.
This meeting is being webcast live and recorded. The recording or webcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. Members of the public who would like to provide public comment on items listed on tonight's agenda, we recommend you fill out the public comment form, the green form, located on the table at the northeast entrance of this meeting room. Please hand the completed form to Board Manager Monica Andrew before the item comes up on the agenda. We recommend you complete a separate form for each agenda item you'd like to comment on. Ms. Andrew is sitting at the table in the back of this meeting room. There she is. Members of the public providing public comment, please use the microphone on the stand located in the front of the room. I'll now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There were no actions taken in closed session. There are revised item enclosures, numbers 4.1, 6.13, and 11.7. May I have a motion to adopt the board meeting agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. On a motion by Board Member Villegas and a second by Board Member Gaby, call for a vote.
Motion passes. Student board member voting yes. 6, 1 absent.
Okay. Oh, I'm very excited that our student performances are back for the year. And so we'd like to, there she is, Administrator of Teaching and Learning, Brianne Phillips.
Well, good evening. Also very excited that our student performances are back. Tonight, we have our Mount Whitney dance team Elevate, led by their dance instructor, Kelly Areola. Some program highlights for the Elevate program was last month they attended their National Dance Alliance dance camp in Rockland, California. They earned a superior rating for their performance on evaluation day. Elevate also earned the Spirit Award of the entire camp, voted by the NDA staff. Additionally, 4 of these Mount Whitney dancers earned All-American. Nominations they were nominated for demonstrating excellence in technique, spirit, showmanship, and leadership. So I invite our board to move down as they enter the room. Tonight, they will perform 2 dances for us. The first is their team dance they learned at dance camp last month, and the second is a lyrical dance to America Medley.
It's 10:35. I know it's 10:35. So many things I'm afraid of. Things getting nothing.
Yeah, yeah. This is way too crazy, ayy. You do not miss me, ayy. From ACA. I don't forget it, ayy. Tell them sit down. Sit down. Down. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. God bless America, land that I love. America, America, God shed his grace on me. Sing beside her and guide her from sea to shining sea.
Let's give another round of applause for those ladies. So while we invite all of our families to stay for the board meeting, I know that my upcoming data report is probably not top on your priority list. So if you were here to watch your daughter perform, you're more than welcome to exit at this time. And then now we'll move on with our regularly scheduled board meeting.
Nope, we want the data report to have that much energy.
In sequence.
Okay, spotlight on good things happening in the district. Superintendent Shrum.
All right, thank you, President Gaby, board members, and our parents and community. Also, again, congratulations, Mount Whitney dance team. What a great job, and thrilled to have, echoing Brianne's comments, our student entertainment back every month, which just helps remind us while we're here. We're here for our students, and so looking forward to that continuing. Before we get into the spotlight, a couple things I want to mention and acknowledge that, you know, we're all aware of the tragedy that occurred in Winder, Georgia last week at a high school and the loss of life there. And also we've had a little bit of tragedy within our own community and recently over the couple of weeks lost a student at Riverway, Royal Oaks, and Crestwood Elementary. So I'd like to begin the spotlight with just a moment of silence to acknowledge those families and our thoughts. Thank you. As we get ready to also talk about the spotlight, also we're aware of the impact of social media. And we've seen recently, again, not only here, but played out all across the nation, the impact of threats and other things can have, whether real or whether not. And one of the things that, has kind of come to my mind as I think about some of these things and students today is kids are really no different than we were. We like to think not that long ago. But what is different today compared to maybe when we were in school is the access students have to different modalities of communication. Back in our day, right, you passed a note, or maybe you got on the phone and dialed the number, right? And that had limited impact. But those emotions and those things that people experience when they're growing up, when they're in their teens, when they're in those young adolescent ages, is really the same. So in a moment like this, as we see this play across our communities, we've got to again remember to engage with our kids, to encourage our community, our families, in our schools, in our homes, to be talking about the impact of social media, to be talking about the importance of seeing something and saying something, which in all of the cases that have occurred here in Visalia, that has happened. And so I want to compliment our families. I want to compliment our kids for knowing when something is going on and making that report. And I also want to encourage our community and others too, to remember that the most important thing people can do instead of going to social media is calling, right? Calling the authorities or versus spreading information that may or may not be accurate, that sometimes just further contributes to cause of concern. But most importantly, I'm concerned about our kids. I'm concerned about our youth. I'm concerned about their exposure. And I really call on our communities. I call on our parents. Have these conversations with your kids at home. When they're upset, help them realize there's a better outlet than maybe expressing that on social media. Helping them understand what the repercussions are for some of those actions. These are students that are making decisions that are impacting really potential future, ability to get into college, ability to have a career. A lot of those things stay and remain on social media. And so I know as a school system, we're going to continue to work to educate through our channels that we can, but this is really something that's beyond just the school system. This really needs you, it needs the community, it needs families, for everyone to work together when we have these situations, but to continue to wrap our arms around our kids and help them know what's the appropriate way to handle things, and then being as involved as we can to monitor those sorts of things. So also want to give a huge shout out. I've said this before, and people are probably like, yeah, whatever, but I've had the privilege of being in multiple school systems. I think this is maybe fourth and final four. But what I will tell you is the partnership that we have here with our police department is hands down better than any I've ever seen. The quickness of communication, the responsiveness, the collaboration, it really is something this community should be extremely proud of. The partnership, that communication. So I want to give a shout out to our police department for their partnership when we have these situations. And also, again, want to highlight, we continue to work and this board continues to invest in tools to keep us as safe as possible. Our Raptor system, we have an alert system now available to all of our staff that speeds up responses. We have the Say Something Anonymous reporting system for our students and families to engage. There's a QR code on every student ID that they can scan and make a report. Our Alice active shooter training, which begins in elementary school. Obviously, lessons are tailored age appropriate, all the way through high school, are all things that we continue to do, and we continue to find more ways to make sure we're working to keep our campuses safe. But at the end of the day, as I say time and time again, the most important things we can do is one, have relationships and be aware and report. Hands down, that's always going to be the best method. When you see something, say something, or think something. And again, continuing those amazing partnerships that we have with our police department and other community agencies. So kind of a heavy note, but I just wanted to begin and acknowledge, because I know that is something that's on people's mind. It's on parents' minds. It's on students' minds. And so we'll also be following up with additional information for our families tomorrow, I believe it is, or later this week, just reminding everyone of all of the things that we have in place. And one of the things I asked my student advisor, I met with my high school student advisory, I think it was yesterday, and I asked them, do you know about these things? Because I'm checking too, right? I want to make sure they're getting the right information. And so I always work to make sure we're listening to our kids and finding out, is this information getting to them? So thank you for what you do every day. You know, our students are our most valuable resource, and we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep everyone in this community safe. So moving on to our spotlight. Moving into kindness, very appropriate here. Want to give a shout out to six middle school Green Acres. I'm getting my titles mixed up there. Middle school students who delivered 56 rocks they painted to add to the Kindness Rock Garden that was created on campus 2 years ago. These students also developed and distributed a flyer around campus to encourage other students to add to the Kindness Garden. Spreading kindness is one of our priorities from our Forward campaign this year, and it's great to see how the students are incorporating this into their lives. Thank you to Ms. O'Neill and the school team for creating an atmosphere where kindness can spread. Also, still, fresh back to school. Most of our schools have completed their back to school nights, orientations. Want to thank our staff, families for engaging in this time together to learn more about what each school has to offer during this year. And speaking of safety, again, highlighting, we have drills that we're required to do by the state, but also others that we add as well for safety. And all of those are underway. Mandatory drills including fire, earthquake, shelter in place, and lockdowns. So thank you to all of our schools working to provide that safety net. And then a few spotlight on student success that we want to give here. I want to start with a name many of us are familiar with, carrying on a great family tradition here in our FFA program of Future Farmers of America. And we're thrilled to announce John Rosen. I think he's here tonight if you want to stand. From El Diamante, give him a round. Was selected to represent California FFA as a delegate at the National FFA Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana. And so very congratulations. Out of 136 applicants, only I think it was 20 or so were chosen, but congratulations to John and carrying on a great tradition as his brother was the state treasurer, if I got the position right, in FFA, parliamentarian. Wait, I get Sentinel. I was close. I was working on it. And so just really proud of our FFA chapters, not only at El Diamante, but also all of our high schools do amazing work. Just proud of these kids, and congratulations, John, and looking forward to the impact you will continue to have at El Diamante and nationally. Also proud to announce Jasmine Williams as the 2024 California Adult Education Student Succeeds Award winner. After facing several obstacles in her educational career, Jasmine is now beginning her CNA education at Visalia Adult School. And students like John and Jasmine are why we invest in our students and why we do what we do. And lastly, we on this congratulations here, we did highlight this on our social media. We have a partnership with Education Equity Lab that provides dual enrollment classes at a couple of our high schools. And of that, we had 18 students who were selected for being top performing scholars in their nation in a college level course in high school. And so really proud of these students. Congratulations to all of them from our classes. I believe it's at Mount Whitney and Golden West are the two where most of the students came from. So congratulations to them. Continuing with our students doing exceptional things, we're honored to have here tonight joining us in person a couple of heroes, and I'd like to introduce Mateo and Nicholas Flores, if you would like to stand. I don't want to make. And Christina, if you want to come and face she'll come up and help you maybe face the audience. I know it's a little shy sometimes, but these two individuals, they're celebrities. You might have seen them on the news recently. Because Mateo, because of his heightened senses, he was able to recognize smoke in the home, take direction from his parents, and get himself, his brother, and grandmother out of the house safely. We just talked about safety drills and why this is so important to have. They can save lives inside and outside of the classroom. So I want to thank you to our fire and police department, but also to these two students. If you want to stand up, we'd love to give you a round of applause. And they were recognized at a school assembly the other day as well. So I know there's some proud family members and parents and principals as well in the audience. So congratulations to these two students. And that's why it's so important. paying attention to those safety drills. So thank you all for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. And you can see them there. So moving to our fall sports, of course, exciting times on our campuses, LD Monte, Golden West, Mount Whitney, Redwood, and of course our other high schools, football, volleyball, girls tennis, girls golf, boys and girls water polo, and cross country are all underway. And so we wish all of our athletes that are participating this fall and our cheer and other teams, dance, as we saw tonight, best of luck in their competitions this fall. I know we will dominate. Continuing, reoccurring theme here, of course, with El Diamante is that it takes excellent teachers and others for excellent programs. And so I'm not sure if she's here, but would like to recognize Ms. Vandal, who continues to put VUSD on the map. She was recently honored as a California Agriculture Teacher of Excellence. She was presented with a plaque and watch at the Agricultural Teachers Association banquet. So congratulations to her on this well-deserved accolade, one of many she has received, just like so many of our teachers who just put their heart and soul into what they do. And so congratulations to her. This past weekend, we launched our annual automotive internship interviews, and we couldn't have done it without incredible support from our local industry partners. These interviews provide invaluable experience for our students, allowing them to practice essential job skills and connecting with our partners and potential internship candidates. 32 students will start their internships soon. Continuing our board member connection events, we had these were held right before the middle school open houses, and we had several parents come out to just engage and talk with our board members. And so thank you to our board members for being present and working to connect with our community. Speaking of our teachers, our math teachers recently came together to continue to work on 7th and 8th grade math, and you see them all engaged in materials and manipulatives and hands-on activities that they're going to be able to bring back to their classrooms. Want to again invite the community. We are launching our district strategic plan, Visalia Unified Forward 2030, on the 24th at the Fox Theater. All this information will be online as well, and so we're really excited about setting forth the direction of our district. And then also, some of you might be a little curious about long-term growth in Visalia. You might know we're growing a little bit and see those housing developments and wonder where those kids are going to go, right? We've got some thoughts about that. And so we're really excited to be kicking off on September 19th. This is all on our website, a series of community workshops where we're going to discuss boundaries. We're going to talk about construction. We're going to talk about grade utilization, building facility utilization, a lot of good topics. And we're asking that our community, that you come to these meetings with an open mind. Pretty sure we're going to present some things that maybe people hadn't thought about before as different ways to think about how do we handle growth is a wonderful thing to have. And so how do we work and re-envision what our schools and our campuses can look like? If you cannot come in person, that's okay. We got you covered. We're going to record it as well, also post it online, and the survey for your feedback will be available to everybody. So stay tuned. More information coming up pretty soon, next week, actually, about that. During the month of September, we have multiple observances, including Labor Day, National Hispanic Heritage Month, Native American Day, Patriot Day, Payroll Week. It's a good one. And Suicide Prevention Week. And so many of our schools do activities connected to these events. Kindness, for example, is one. And so we look forward through our highlights to continue to share many of the things our schools are doing for those. Spotlight on social media. You see some of the social media events or posts that we had recently as well. So that concludes my spotlight. And again, proud of all of our students. Thank you to those that were able to join us in person tonight. We appreciate that and look forward to continuing our amazing year.
Any board comment? I'll just say thank you. And this is almost as good as the student performances, especially when you bring in the kiddos here. So it's awesome to hear about. We know there's so many great things going on in the district. So great way to highlight that. Thank you. All right, preliminary state data report, Administrator of Teaching and Learning, Breanne Phillips.
All right, well, good evening as our presentation is loading. Good evening, Board President Gaby, Board Superintendent Schrum. Tonight we come to you with our preliminary state data report. It's preliminary because our actual data doesn't come from the state until October. And in October, we'll come to you again with our comparison data to both local and like school districts. As always, we ground in our core beliefs and commitments, and focusing in on all students can achieve at high levels and demonstrate continuous growth. Our assessments and how our students are performing really aligns to this to get us to our vision of every student empowered to achieve future success. As we look at our of the work that we've been doing over the last 2 years, we have really been focusing on setting the foundation of quality first instruction in all of our classrooms. Tonight, as we lean into our data, what you are going to see is you're going to see that we do have some incremental growth across the district. You're also going to see that we have bright spots to replicate, and you're also going to see that we have some areas of focus for us to put some continuous improvement within. We're going to launch with our EL reclassification data. All of our students that are classified as an English learner take the LPAC in the spring. In order to reclassify, they must score a 4 on the LPAC, and they must also be meet standard on the CAFs for ELA and or the iReady. We have meeting our grade level standard. We do provide multiple opportunities to reclassify throughout the year. When we look at our EL reclassification data, we see that we have an 11% reclassification rate for our 23-24 school year. This is similar to our previous year school year. We reclassified at a rate of 10%. So what that is telling us is we have sustainable growth. What we put in place 2 years ago has been sustainable. We are double the growth from 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we were at a 5% growth. So we are growing, but sustaining. So that does mean that we do need to look into how do we then advance further to increase our reclassification rate. What I do want to point out, though, is that number 443. 443 more students have access to VAPA classes, AP classes, pathway classes, and our dual enrollment classes. So through reclassification, we are opening doors to our students. We're going to jump into our CAFS data, and we'll look at our ELA data first. What we see here on the screen is I kind of divide this chart into 2 parts. On the left-hand side, you do see the percent of our students that met standard, nearly met standard, or standard was met or exceeded. What we recognize, though, is we need to look at our cohort growth over time, meaning what our students last year, our 3rd grade students last year, to our 4th grade students, who were our 4th grade students when we assess them. So looking at our data, we do see that we do have growth in our cohort data from 3rd through 7th grade, which is really encouraging. We do recognize that there is a decrease in 7th and 8th, and that is an area that we're looking into. Our 11th grade, we don't have cohort data because we don't assess 9th or 10th grade. And so that is year over year. We do see a 3 percentage point decline in that from last year. What is encouraging, though, is our 3rd grade, year over year, we see a 3 percentage point growth. I would like to call out, though, this 3rd grade class that shows the assessments here did not go through our phonics foundations program. This academic year is the year that we'll have our 3rd graders assess, and they had 1 year within our phonics foundations program, which is exciting to see what that impact will be. What we're wanting to show here is our trend growth, looking over time. So we do see that there's 3 different sets of data illustrated on this line graph. What we have is in that light orange is our 21-22 ELA meeting or exceeding standard. In the brown, we have our 22-23, and then in the red, we have our 23-24 data. What I would like to point out is we're looking at the gaps that we are creating. So we are growing in our grades 3 through 6. We're creating a greater gap between where we were 2 years ago to where we were last year. We do recognize, though, again, that in our middle school grades that we do have some work to dig into. What we see here now is we have layered on the state and the county data. So the county data from last year, we don't have our, from 2 years ago. We do not have last year's, we'll have that in October. But when we look at the county is that bright green line. The USD's 2 years ago data is the light orange. Last year's data is the bright red. And then the state data is the gray data that you see. Focusing in on where we were last year to this year, our bright red line graph, we see we are growing farther away from the county and how the county performed and closer to the state performance. So in recognizing that we are one of the largest districts in the county contributing to those, to the scores and the performances. So super bright spot to illustrate is our 6th grade. Our 6th grade last year outperformed the previous year's state data, which is very exciting. Jumping into now our math achievement data by grade level. Again, this is by our cohorts. So on the left-hand side, you'll see our assessments from last year. And then on the right-hand side, you will see the comparison of when they were in the years previous. We do see a downward trend in data in mathematics. This is not any different from the state, and you will see that illustrated when I show you in a couple slides, the 2 pieces layered, is that trend is consistent. But again, a spot to highlight is that 5th to 6th grade, noticing that they have a 5-point percentage growth. And that is a piece that we're looking into because as we talked about replicating, what are we doing in that 6th grade to have such great gains? So looking at our data over 3 years, and again, the 3 years ago would be the light orange, 2 years ago would be the brown, and then our most recent is that bright red. We do see our performance trends increasing, so we are growing. In the grades 3 through 7th grade. We do recognize in 8th and 11th, we do have some work to work on within those grade levels. But reflecting back on what Mr. Schrum mentioned earlier about our math collaborative, we are putting intentional focus in our middle school grades, especially on mathematics, in order for us to prepare our students for our Math 1 when they get into our high school levels. When we look at our comparison data to our state as well as our county, we have been outperforming the county within our grades 8 and below and continue to outperform the county. We are performing on par with the county in our 11th grade. We do see that we are getting closer to the state performance. However, we're just not quite there yet. With that exception of 6th grade, they're getting closer and closer. So our distance from standard data is really the data that really encapsulates all of our students. When we look at those previous the previous data, that was only our students meeting or exceeding standard. But looking at our distance from standard, this piece takes every student in every grade level that took the assessment. What this is, and we're just going to take 3rd grade, for example. So in 3rd grade ELA, the standard to meet is 2,432 points. We have all of our students' scores. We have students who scored above that. We have students that scored below that. Your distance from standard takes all of your students and averages their scores together. What we're seeing is our students scored 25 points below that distance from standard, which was 2,407 as their average. What is exciting to note, though, is that the previous year for our 3rd grade students, they were 34 points away from standard, which means we had a growth of 9 points. So when we look at our data from grades 3 through grades 8, we are either maintaining or growing closer to that distance from standard, which is encouraging because we're showing as a district, we are improving. We do recognize that in the 11th grade, we do have a decline within our 11th grade components. But the board has taken action to have a 3-year graduation requirement. Our students that tested last year did not have that graduation requirement. That is in place for this year's freshmen. Not only that, our focus was on Math 1 last year because we're building the foundation. We've rolled up that math focus into Math 2 as well this year. So we do have some components that we're working towards to improve those 11th grade assessment scores. What we've also broken down here for us to look at is our subgroup data. So a highlight on the ELA side is our homeless and foster subgroups showed great gains within their change from distance from standard. But on the math side, we do see that those two subgroups did not make the same amount of gains. And so what are the components that we need to look into to provide the appropriate supports in order for our subgroups to gain at the same rate or faster than our non-subgroup students? Moving on, we have our AP enrollment and passing rates. What is really exciting, while we have our data listed here by our subject, our number of students enrolled, number of tested, and percent of students passing. What I'd like to share with you is the comparative data from this year to last year. Last academic year, reflected in here, is 72 more students took AP classes. 256 more students took an AP exam. 170 more students passed an AP exam. So the rigor of our AP classes benefits our students in their current and future academic success because it is exposing them to their higher levels of learning. So while we are invested in building out our dual enrollment pathways, we are equally as invested in supporting our students in their AP classes, building out those as well, and increasing the number of tests passed, which then equates to the number of college credits students will earn. Going on to our A to G college readiness rates. So our A to G college readiness rates, our A to G are a set of courses that students must take in order to apply to a UC or a CSU. What we recognize is that 44.4% of our graduating seniors met the A to G requirements. While this is a small decrease from our a decrease of 2.7 from the 22-23 school year, it's still a significant growth from our 21-22. In 21 and 22, we only had a 14.4% rate of students being A to G. So again, this is an example of sustainability, but recognizing we do have work to do in this. While we did see a small decrease, we are excited that our A to G rates are showing sustainable growth. Last year, we did have a very significant jump because of the efforts that El Diamante made. They were able to sustain that growth as seen here. This is a major area of focus for us, and we're committed to reaching the board-created 5-year goal of 52%. And as we talked, we will see growth is not linear. We will see dips and gains as we implement and tighten our systems. We will work towards this by taking an in-depth look into our system to make sure students access A to G courses and higher passing rates while increasing the rigor of our courses. The final piece of data that I'd like to share with you is our college and career readiness data. So what our college and career readiness data represents is the percentage of high school graduates who are prepared and for college and or career. This indicator was designed to encourage our high schools to provide all students with a rigorous broad course of study that prepares them for post-secondary success. So there's multiple avenues that students do qualify as being college and career ready. So being A to G and qualifying through scoring a 3 or better on the PASP or the Smarter Balance Assessment, we had 345 students achieve that. CTE pathway, along with A to G, there was 307 of our graduates there. Our dual enrollment, along with A to G, they have to have 2 dual enrollment classes. We had 223 students earn it through that pathway. And then finally, we have the state seal of biliteracy. We don't have an and with the state seal of biliteracy, and we had 205 students qualify with the state seal of biliteracy. What's exciting to show is that we have seen a positive growth in all of our school sites in their college and career readiness data. And with that, that concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you. Board questions.
I just want to say, thank you for the report and pointing out that we know that we still have room to grow, but it's very exciting to see growth in the areas that we have seen growth. And so thank you to everyone who has made that possible.
Likewise, I just wanted to add how exciting some of these bright spots are, looking at almost meeting the state standard in some grades and continue to outperform the county. And I also am looking forward to how that third year math graduation requirement might impact some of those 11th grade scores now that they'll actually be taking a year of math. And also excited about the potential for our board to consider aligning more of our graduation requirements with A through G. So more of our students are not only meeting that college and career readiness data, but also the A through G college readiness rates. We took on math. And so, how can we explore other areas like world languages? We're going to be, looking at ethnic studies this year. But the more we can do to lead in that regard, I'm really excited for. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I do just want to say, everyone is working so hard and we acknowledge that, but data just gives us that opportunity to ask questions and make sure we're working hard in the right direction. So yes, really appreciate kind of that focus on bright spots and then, those areas of concern, and that we're building a foundation, that it's not just short-term growth, that it's like all the efforts were put into phonics when we know it wasn't testing grades, really shows that commitment to long-term learning. So thank you very much. And definitely the multiple measures, because percent proficient is one thing, but there's kids that are working really hard and getting closer to that. And just because they didn't cross the line of proficiency, they did. And then there's kids that are already proficient that now they're taking AP classes and, and so looking at, every student learning every day is awesome. So thank you very much for your report. General public comment. General public comment on any school-related topic may be heard at this time. The board asks that any public comment on any item listed on tonight's agenda be addressed at the time the item comes up for discussion by the board. To comply with the Brown Act, California's open public meeting law, board discussion is limited to items on the agenda. Therefore, when receiving public comment for items not on the agenda, the board's role is limited to receiving such comments, and the board may not engage in dialogue with the public. The board thanks the public for its participation in public comment and understanding of the board's responsibility. Pursuant to board policy, the board will limit individual comments to no more than 3 minutes and individual topics to 20 minutes. It is recommended you begin the comments by stating your name. I do have green forms and I think they're all on the same topic. And so I will start with Matthew Carlton. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Carlton. I have 2 daughters at El Diamante, and they both are in the cheer program. One is on varsity, and one is a freshman. I'm a commander in the United States Navy, and as such, I'm aware that 1% of the population often takes up 90% of your time. I value your time, and I will keep this short with respect to Leticia Cervantes and her conduct concerning the El Diamante cheer team. Last Friday, during the varsity football game in Lemoore, California, Leticia sat directly behind Coach Tracy, where she was trying to direct and lead the varsity cheer team. This was intimidation, this was harassment, and this was completely uncalled for behavior. This took the entire focus off of the hardworking efforts of our students and made everyone uncomfortable. Per Community Relations Board Procedure 1250, subset A, the board encourages all individuals to assist in maintaining a safe and secure school environment by behaving in an orderly manner while on school grounds and by utilizing the district's complaint processes if they have concerns with any district program or employee. In accordance With Penal Code 626.7, the principal or designee may request that any individual who is causing a disruption, including exhibiting volatile, hostile, aggressive, or offensive behavior, immediately leave school grounds. Leticia's behavior has transitioned from annoyance to nuisance to harassment and now intimidation. Her lies and TikTok falsehoods are a legal issue which I hope you are dealing with. But the safety of the children has now become my concern. Her actions and her harassment and intimidation is visible to every parent, every student on the team. Coaches are unable to coach without fears of their lies and intimidation. I am asking you to consider a protective restraining order against Leticia to protect our children and protect our coach. Our girls have been subjected to investigations, interviews, observations, and the school administration has done everything possible to help, but I need your help. As a parent with 2 students under Coach Tracy's purview, I support Coach Tracy. I trust Coach Tracy. I ask you to trust her. I ask you to support her and do what is necessary to protect our children from continued harassment from a single parent that does not. I have nothing else to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Ashley Aguirre.
Pull this up really quick. Good evening. My name is Ashley Aguirre. My daughter is Kira Aguirre. She's been on LD cheer team for 3 years. She knew going into tryouts for freshman year, Tracy was a cheer queen because Tracy was also my cheer coach during my freshman year. She knew Tracy was going to be tough. She knew she was going to have to work hard. And she knew Tracy was going to hold her accountable because I let her know all of this from experience. As I'm sure you're all tired of this, as we are. But how much longer are you going to let a 50-year-old woman harass this team? Harass these teenagers continuously. She intimidates them. She doesn't support our program in any way. She doesn't donate for our girls. She doesn't donate snacks for games. She doesn't help at events. She doesn't do absolutely anything. The one event that she did go to, she sat there and talked bad about the coaches to me. She told me, here, let me help you so it looks like I'm doing something and not just standing here talking bad. Ms. Nelson came in to check on the event and how we were doing. She pulled her aside and spoke with her until the event started. She then proceeded to be rude during the event while Tracy was handing out awards. She was speaking to the girls, so Tracy had to stop and let her finish doing whatever she was doing so she could continue the award ceremony. And I believe there's a video of that also. I can't let these girls endure this anymore. Not only girls, there's Brian on the team as well. There's one boy. I can't just sit back and watch somebody harass my daughter and other kids that they actually love this sport and they want to be on that track every Friday night. They love Friday Night Lights. They love supporting their team. No matter if they win or they lose, they're out there every Friday. There's no reason she should still be able to be part of this program when she's torn it apart. She's divided the entire team. She's caused them so much mental health issues. Like you really have to take that into consideration now. Mental health is a big thing. And when they have an older woman who's harassing them and their coach and they can't be doing what they really truly love, that's a big deal. And I'm sure you guys are as frustrated as we are as parents, but they're not your kids, they're our kids, and we're gonna fight as hard as we can to have her removed from the team. This should not be an issue any longer. As last month you stated that this was over. Nothing should be said about it anymore, no more comments, nothing. And yet she's still taking it to people outside of the state on TikTok, and she has them speaking on this situation when it shouldn't even be out of the state, out of this county, out of this district. If she has a problem with Tracy, she needs to move her child to the district that she is part of, whether it's Golden West or Mount Whitney.
Thank you. Okay, and I'm going to call these four up together. Casey Gary, Leila Sanchez, Jaden Mayo, and Kyla Anderson. Oh, and one more, Amaya Herrera.
Hello, my name is Kyla Anderson, and I've been a part of the LD Monte cheer team for 3 years now. I've suffered from anxiety and lots of insecurities my freshman year. My sophomore year, I joined the LD Monte cheer team. Because of this program, my coaches, especially Coach Tracy, and my team, I have found myself and grown into the happy, confident woman I am today. It's now my senior year, and what was once my passion, filled with hopefulness and joy, has been replaced with fear and anxiety due to these targeting and harmful actions done by Leticia Cervantes, which started last year during my junior year too. This mom has viewed my social media, making me feel uncomfortable and scared since she has done obscure things like attacking my coaches and my mom through misinformation. A TikTok was posted 3 days ago by a woman named Jillian Blue. This TikTok was further pushing the misinformation and false allegations targeted towards my coach Tracy, even after they have all been proven, in fact, not true. This TikTok claimed to be worried about the cheerleaders' mental and physical health and well-being. But if these women truly cared about that, they wouldn't have attacked my coaches and the cheer program in the first place. Because ever since Leticia started her lies, I've had horrible anxiety and been in fear at my practices, games, and cheer events she is at. Me and the other seniors last year on this team should not be ruined by this terror, nor the juniors, sophomores, and freshmen on this team. Please help us cheerleaders and the program by taking out this anxiety and fear and help bring this team back together and to a happy, healthy place again. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amaya Herrera, and I've been a part of the LD Monte cheer team for the last 3 years. I've stayed quiet through all the drama, but it's time we speak up. Our coach and program has been seriously hurt by Leticia Cervantes and her lies. Last Friday, she stayed for our varsity game, and I felt so uncomfortable the entire time. I didn't feel safe having her there. She made it clear that she has issues with our coach and our team. What's even worse is that her child is still benefiting from the same program she attacks. Why should we have to worry about a parent instead of focusing on our skills and why we cheer? I love cheer, I love my coaches, and I love my team. But we haven't been able to come together like we used to because Leticia keeps causing division. At the game, she was taking pictures of my mom, my baby sister, and all of us just cheerleaders, which just made everything more uncomfortable. Then she gave information to a woman named Julian, which she posted on TikTok trying to make it go viral, talking bad about our coach and program. She used a picture of our CIF win as the cover photo. We didn't even get to celebrate our win properly because of the problems she's been causing, and now she's using that win for her own drama. This also caused me to lose focus during class because I'm worried about what Leticia is posting and commenting on TikTok. I'm constantly checking to see if she's commented on TikTok. I'm trying to defend my coach's name, so I keep checking it. After seeing that TikTok, I'm really starting to worry about my coach's safety. It feels like she's trying to cause emotional or maybe even physical harm to her. Leticia is also claiming we are being physically abused. If we're being abused, why do you keep sending your daughter back? If you truly believe that, why do you keep putting your daughter in that situation? Why let her try out again? She has caused my mental health to decline. I have needed to see the social worker several times because all the anxiety and trauma this has caused me. This needs to stop. Please help us. This situation is hurting our team and has gone on too for long. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Casey Gary, and I'm currently an LD Monte cheerleader. I stand here before you all to address the ongoing harassment regarding coaches, teammates, and booster members. For months, my cheer coaches have fought allegations that have all been proven false, yet the rumors persist. The allegations have been investigated and the truth has come out. They're innocent. I stand behind my cheer coaches in the program and ask that this is put to an end. Since February, our team has been divided due to the persistent rumors circulating about our program. This has affected our practice environment and our ability to work together as a team. I speak for the rest of us when I say that I'm tired. I just want to have a normal high school experience, free from unnecessary drama and stress. Our coaches have been unfairly targeted, and it's time that we stand up for them. They put time and effort into this program despite the constant harassment and lies. As I stand before you all, I ask that the board members take immediate action and take into consideration what this has done to the mental health and well-being of us cheerleaders, but also the coaches who have spent the last half a year fighting lies. Thank you.
My name is Laylee Sanchez. As a cheerleader who's been a part of LD Cheer, I'm really upset about what's been going on with this parent in our program. My sophomore and junior year have honestly been ruined because of all the drama. This parent has been spreading lies about our amazing coach and tearing everything we've worked so hard for. We won our CIF championship, which should have been a huge celebration for us, but instead we've been dealing with her nonstop negativity. What makes it even worse is she shared it with a woman named Julian and put our championship picture on TikTok to spread more hate about our program. Like, why take something that was such a big achievement for us and turn it into drama? In that TikTok, Leticia Cervantes has shared false information to Julian that our coach is being abusive to the cheerleaders. Personally, I know my parents will not allow me to continue cheering in this program if they saw in any way that I can be in danger. But yet, Leticia still continues to let her own daughter cheer in this program. If she is claiming that our coach is being abusive, why does she let her own daughter continue to cheer in this program? Why would you put your own daughter at risk? When is this going to stop? It's so frustrating how one person can do so much damage. I love cheer, I love my coaches, and I know my team feels the same way. It's time for this parent to be removed from the program because of all she's doing is causing division. This whole situation has seriously affected my mental health. It's exhausting trying to keep going when there's so much negativity. We just want to cheer and be a team without someone constantly bringing us down. It's time for her to stop and start putting us first. Thank you.
My name's Jaden Mayo, and I'm on my second year with this team. And it has been the most amazing experience I've ever been through. But something keeps making it more negative and less and less enjoyable for both years that I have been on the team. This woman, Leticia, is spreading false information, yet she's still the vice president of the cheer booster board at our school. She wears our cheer merchandise while saying very negative stuff to not only the people on the cheer team, but to anyone slightly associated with the program. Leticia makes it known that she does not like Coach Tracy. And it's very unsettling and not mindful that we, the cheer team, have to see Leticia comment negative things about our coach right in front of us. Leticia is still connected to our program, being the vice president of the cheer booster board, and still states that we're being mentally and physically abused. If everything was so bad, then I'm not sure why this woman is still associated with our program. Our coach, Tracy, has never done anything to me, and I've never seen her press anyone around me. She would never do anything to hurt us. She has been there for me through hard times, and I can only imagine what she's going through right now. I will continue to fight for my coach and make sure that she has done no wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. And that just takes a lot of courage to come and even speak tonight. And congratulations on your CIF championship. That is a huge accomplishment. So congratulations on that. Okay, consent agenda. Would any other public comment? Nope. Seeing none? Okay. Consent agenda. Would any board member like to pull any item from consent agenda? Okay, may I have a motion to approve?
I'll motion. Sorry, my microphone was off.
Got it. I'll second.
Sure, I'll second. Thanks.
All right, on a motion by Board Member Case-Pierce-Solano and a second by Board Member Gaby, vote.
Motion passes. Student board member voting yes, 6 yes, 1 absent.
All right, our student representative report, Ms. Taylor Langford, so that we can hear about all the great stuff happening at our schools.
All right, at El Diamante High School, Club Rush 2024 was a tremendous success. On August 30th, more than 40 clubs and several community organizations were out on campus at lunch, sharing information and recruiting new members. College Week is coming up September 9th through September 13th. Students will have the opportunity to meet with representatives and gather information to help them begin to make decisions on where they may go after graduation. Minor Youth Night is September 13th. Many cheerleaders, youth football players, and the middle school bands will be invited to the football game to participate with the high school teams and band. Homecoming 2024 is September 16th through the 20th. A Tangled Homecoming will be filled with spirit events, a parade, and the crowning of the king and queen at the football game on September 20th. Golden West High School. On August 23rd, ASB organized a lively Club Rush Day at Golden West. The event gave students the opportunity to explore a variety of clubs, meet passionate club leaders, and find new ways to get involved on campus. The energy was high as students discovered the many activities and groups available, making it a day of connection and excitement. On August 30th, ASB put on a spirited kickoff rally to launch the school year with enthusiasm. The rally was filled with cheers, games, and performances, creating a vibrant atmosphere that brought the entire student body together. It was a perfect start to the season, setting the tone for a school year full of spirit and unity. On October 4th, ASB will host an exciting homecoming rally to cap off a week full of school spirit and celebration. Homecoming week, running from September 30th to October 4th, will feature themed dress-up days, engaging noontime activities, and plenty of opportunities for students to show their Blazer pride. The rally will include performances by the Illusions Dance Team and the Golden West Band, as well as the announcement of this year's homecoming king and queen during the halftime show at the football game. Mount Whitney High School. Mount Whitney High School hosted Back to School Night on August 26th. Mount Whitney organized Welcome Week festivities, including a dress-up week and a rally. A tailgate was held before Mount Whitney's Maroon Out football game. Students were able to purchase spirit gear and have their faces painted. Mount Whitney hosted a Maroon March. Students who attended the Maroon March got into the football game for free. Redwood High School hosted Back to School Night on Monday, August 26th. ASB organized a Spirit Jeans activity where students brought a pair of jeans and ASB provided all the supplies to create fun school-spirited pants. Redwood hosted the ABC 30 5 a.m. rally on Friday, August 23rd, where students showed up bright and early to demonstrate what it means to be a true Ranger. Sequoia. Senior Sunrise was held on August 23rd. Breakfast burritos were served to all the students and staff in attendance. On September 5th, Sequoia set up a full tent, campfire cookout, s'mores, and games in the gym to host their back-to-school camp night. On September 9th, Sequoia students and staff attended the Youth Wellness Festival, which was hosted by COS. The week of September 3rd to the 6th, Sequoia hosted Spirit Week with dress-up days and lunchtime activities. VCIS will be hosting our back-to-school night on Thursday, September 12th. We will host our current families and also have potential student families engaged in an evening of learning all of the amazing programs VCIS has to offer students. VCIS is actively engaging students in participating in events on campus for Suicide Prevention Month in September. An open resource fair where students can engage in conversation around awareness and prevention will be displayed on both East and West campuses throughout the month. VCIS is in the final stages of preparing to move to their new modernized campus on Lovers Lane. Staff, students, and families have started to discuss the move and a smooth transition for all stakeholders. A huge shout out to the VUSD Facilities Department for making this modernization and move process outstanding. VTech ASB hosted a dress-up week and finished the week with an icebreaker dance for their 9th grade and VTech students. VTech FFA is exciting to begin their exhibits at the Tulare Fair happening this week, September 9th through September 14th. The VTech Scholarship Foundation will be hosting its annual Harvest Festival Pancake Breakfast on October 5th, 2024. VTech ASB will host many events that week and announce the Harvest Royalty on October 5th, 2024.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start this side. Board Member Belt, Board Member reports.
Thank you, President Gaby. I want to really thank Superintendent Schrum for reminding us and noting the need for all of our VUSD community, parents and students, to have the conversation. When we were students, this is my 50th high school reunion month. The conversation was what you had with your mom and dad about the birds and the bees, but we have a new the conversation. We at Visalia Unified have robust security measures on every level. You've heard about them. Hopefully you've seen them. Many of you have participated and actually been trained with them. But the security of the heart, the security of the mind is something that can't be trained or taught. But it can be something that we have the conversation about. And I would like to suggest that it starts with one simple thing. We used to have something that was known as the golden rule. It wasn't making more Bitcoin or gold coins. The golden rule was treat others the way you would like to have yourself treated. That's the simple and the simplest way to solve all of the craziness that happens on social media with these mobile devices. The bullying, the horrible things said back and forth, the living out of emotions that should be something you talk about and live out at home, not online. So thank you for suggesting that. And I want to encourage all of our community, all of our family of this amazing 30,000 students and families. Let's take that to heart. I had the amazing privilege to go to 2 different back to school nights. The first one was at Valley Oak to see all the things that are happening with their parents being introduced and exploring their classrooms of their students. And Principal Franco had a motivating speech, more than that, a conversation he had with a packed multi-purpose building, their gymnasium actually there at Valley Oak, and encourage families to really be a part of everything that's happening in their kids' school, in the things that they're learning, the things that they're experiencing. So I want to give a thank you to Mr. Franco and all of his staff. What a great opportunity. I also had a couple of students there who came from Ivanhoe, and it's going to be coming up later this year. But remember how we read to students during Dr. Seuss's birthday, Read Across America week. And these 2 students were with their older siblings at Valley Oak who came from Ivanhoe, and they remembered me. I don't know if it's my white hair or the voices I did when I read to them, but they came up and hugged me and thanked me for coming and reading at their school. Well, then I went to their school because I went to the Ivanhoe back to school night, and there they were again. But this time I was accompanying their music teacher, my wife. And so there was some new connections made. And I think Principal Aguilera and her staff for all they did in communicating well with parents and students and families. And of course, there's a unique community school in Ivanhoe, and they love their school. And they now love their K-3 music teacher too. All right, one last thing I want to point out is we have lots of loft things that are coming up where students will be challenged to do more than just be connected, but they're learning how what they're learning relates to where they may end up in a career. And so they're going to have an opportunity to actually interview professionals, interview career people in something that they're looking at or interested in. And along with that, this Saturday, I want to encourage all musicians. There's a special opportunity that's hosted at COS in the music department, and it is how to refine your skills in barbershop. And it's for all ages of high school students, male and female. And then in the evening, all of you are invited at 7 o'clock for a public performance to see how they've honed their skills with some professionals. You may not know that. They're actually professional barbershop musicians. And that's my report tonight.
Board Member Case-Beer Solano.
Thank you. Just very briefly, I went to back to school nights at both Washington. Sorry, you guys, I just spit and that was really gross. I'm so sorry. It just startled me. I went to a couple back to school nights, and one was at Washington, or I'm sorry, at Visalia, where we got to do our Meet Your Board Member events. It was really nice to meet some families, mostly just nice to see junior high school students still coming out with their parents and holding their hands and that sort of thing. Although I don't really think I saw anyone holding hands at the school. It was more like in the parking lot I saw a parent. So And so thank you to those sites. We had our board training that we all participated in. That was really wonderful. It was an all-day training. And we got a lot of good work done there. So thank my fellow board members for that. I wanted to thank students, teachers, and your parents for what is going to be a crazy week at the Tulare Fair. I know that our FHA families spend like hours and hours and hours at the fair this week. I know it's one of my kids' favorite part to go and see those animals. So thank you for being there. Thank you for supporting your kids. Thank the teachers too. And just a reminder that the Tulare Fair is this week, starts tomorrow. It's a great time and you get to check out all of our kiddos and some of the amazing things that they do outside of the classroom. So go check it out.
Board Member Odo.
So a couple things here. First off, I took part in the board work session on the 30th of last month, and a good day. We had great conversations around a number of things related to strategic planning. I want to thank staff for the high level of preparation for that event. It was really, really well supported. And also want to note that the board had and has a very professional approach to the work that we do. The conversations are focused on kids and community. They are always at a level that reflects great preparation and thoughtfulness about what we're considering. So it was a good day and supported again by good work by staff and by the board. And also want to note that I attended a conversation with a board member event at Ridgeview Middle School. Had one parent come out, which was great. We had a very deep conversation on a number of different topics, but it was good to be available to anyone who wanted to walk up, even though we had the additional 107-degree heat that afternoon. But anyone who wanted to come up and talk about anything related to the schools was able to come up and do that. So I think that it's a good step for the board to be visible and available to the community, and also good feedback. You know, we're open to folks. We listen to whoever wants to talk to us about stuff that's related to their kids' education here in this community. So good stuff there too. Looking forward to a couple school site visits this year, kicking off with Valley Oak Middle School and also Mount Whitney High School later this week. Looking forward to that. That's it.
Board Member Villegas.
Thank you, President Gaby. I'm a little bit early to this, but since we won't see each other until October, happy early Hispanic Heritage Month, which technically starts on the 15th, but really excited about all the activities we have going on at all of our sites across the district. Also want to wish good luck to all of our FFA students and anyone involved in the Tulare County Fair and showing animals, because as stated earlier, there's a lot of work and hours that goes into that, even starting in the summer. So kudos to all of those students. Had a great time at the conversations with the board member alongside with Trustee Gamoyan. We had more than one parent. We had a few actually who came to our table. So I'm actually feeling happy about that. We got some great feedback from folks who had questions as well as concerns. But it was just a great opportunity to engage with that feedback, to show people actually we're able to pull up our awesome facilities website right on our phone and show this constituent how to have their input and all the board workshops and community sessions that are going to be happening over the course of this month and the next. So highly, highly encourage you to attend. Your feedback leaves us better informed as board members about the decisions that we'll have to make in the future, both in terms of short-term planning and long-term planning. So please, please do participate if you can. And finally, I just wanted to highlight one of our items on the consent agenda was actually purchasing instruction materials for dual immersion. I had been in contact with Assistant Superintendent Mark Thompson and looking at some of our numbers in our dual immersion programs, because ideally the state has guidelines and suggested guidelines around balance of both English language learners and English only students as they're navigating multiple languages, right? And so as we strive to get to that 50-50% goal at our multiple dual immersion sites, I'm excited to see the opportunity for more of our English language learners to participate in that programming, as that will definitely help us with all of our other goals, including reclassification and opening up doors and opportunities for those students in particular. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. And our board clerk tonight, Board Member Gamoyan.
I really enjoyed our conversation with the board member. One community member came to us and said, well, I guess it's already done. We're doing this and this certain thing for our facilities. And I said, oh, no, this is a community blueprint. It's the community that's going to decide what we need to do. So I really want to encourage you to get on that website to see where we are currently. And these meetings, I hope a lot of you come to these meetings because we need your input. When we were at our board work session and we were discussing some of our options, we gave no opinions. It was all, we were there, we were open-minded, and we're welcoming your insight. If you have something else creative that you think could be possible, we want to invite you to share that with us. So please come. The other thing, I really want to commend our ASB directors at our middle schools and our high schools, because that is such an important job for building school culture. And I follow the ASBs on my Instagram, and there are many wonderful things going on. And just as Ms. Langford reported, that is so important for our kids to be connected to the schools. And that's what our ASB directors do. So thank you, ASB directors.
Awesome. Oh, and yeah, so got to attend a couple back to school nights at middle schools, and it was actually awesome to see how many parents were out at middle school. You know, we always get a large showing at elementary, but then sometimes it kind of wanes off. So that was awesome. And conversation with a board member, and thank you to Principal Bishop for moving me inside when it was 107 degrees. And we had a good turnout there, me and myself. We did hold a work session, as my fellow board members have mentioned. Superintendent Shrum makes us work too. And, but it was a great day. We did set 5-year goals in reading, writing, and math. And those were not only just CAS percentage goals, but kind of as mentioned in Ms. Phillips' report, also goals that look at growth, because we're really looking at every student learning every day. And so measuring that individual growth and really that idea of every student deserves a year's growth in a year's time. And so that was, you know, felt good, and had some great conversations there. Also, we did discuss next steps for the facilities planning options. So I really encourage everyone to get involved early, because this is the idea stage. And this is the best part to really make an impact and get your ideas to the table. And so check out our website for more information, and those community meetings will be sent out also. And then lastly, we kind of started that conversation. You know, we all know kind of as budgets are looking right now, and just looking at information about how we allocate our resources, and bringing in, staff was just amazing at bringing in data to look at how we allocate those resources, because again, everybody's doing hard work, and a lot of things are fabulous and do have an impact, a positive impact, but really what is showing that kind of greatest impact and most benefit for our students. And so really, as part of that strategic plan, looking at data to make decisions about programs and resource allocation there. So it was a great day, and got lots of hard work done. And so thank you to Superintendent Shrum, and definitely the staff. And with that, I'll turn it over to your report.
All right, well, thank you. Really, also just to echo that, want to compliment our board. There's a lot that goes into this work, not just sitting up here, but the workshops and other time that they put in. And so they also lead very busy lives. And so whether it was having to find time to take a day off of their current job to be able to come to this, they all do that. Not a lot of boards can say they have 100% participation at a lot of these things that are all-day events, but ours can. And so very proud of the work that they do. They put in a lot of time to create this work, these goals, the decisions that will be made with our long-term facilities plan. And so also want to echo that it's so important that our community be engaged. Check out that information online. Come to the community meetings if you can. If not, you'll still have access to that information. And again, so excited about the launch of our strategic plan. And while I can't make any additional comments, I do want to say thank you so much for our students and others that continue to advocate for themselves. Just to know that voices are always heard when they come and speak at our board meetings. And so I want to thank those individuals for doing that. And that concludes my report tonight.
Thank you. Okay, recommended expulsions. May I have a motion to approve the recommended expulsions?
I'll motion.
Second.
On a motion by Board Member Case Beer Soleno and a second by Board Member Gamoyen, call for a vote.
Motion passes. Student board member abstains, 6 yes, 1 absent.
Recommended suspended expulsions. May I have a motion to approve the recommended expulsions, suspended expulsions?
So moved.
Second.
On a motion by Board Member Gamoyen and a second by Board Member Odo, call for a vote.
Motion passes. Student board member abstains, 6 yes, 1 absent.
All right, Part C, Early Intervention Program for Infants and Toddlers with Disabilities 0 to 3, Assistant Superintendent Andy DeMayo.
There we go. Hello again, President Gaby, Superintendent Schrum, members of our school board and community. I'm here tonight to talk again about our Part C program. Really excited to kind of go into a little bit more detail about what you might anticipate and what we have looking forward to in the future. So again, I think the thing that we want to point out more than anything is one of the core beliefs we have in our district talks about the support we offer for our family and community to make sure that they're engaged and they're taken care of. This is one huge way we're going to be able to do that for our youngest citizens and their families. Another thing that we're talking about, and we've talked about this graphic quite a bit, it's that cyclical nature of the way we support our families and how our job as a district is to make sure we're setting those conditions for future success. The group we're talking about are students that are infants to 3 years old before they hit what we typically have been thinking of as our educational system. We're looking to impact our students before they even start with us in preschool in a way to really make an impact. So what I want to just share with you tonight is a little reminder about what Part C is, what the ask is, our why behind it, which is really going to be a little bit of data I want to show you as to why this is so impactful. Little reminders about the program proposal and then next steps, and certainly offer an opportunity to answer any questions you might have about the program. So first of all, maybe, okay, Mr. Brown, what are you doing to me? There we go. All right, as a reminder, what Part C services are. So we know in our community, we've got children that are infants to 36 months, about 3 years, typically before they start coming to us in preschool. Some of those children in our community have some needs that perhaps need to be identified that we could offer some support in. These services typically happen in a home setting, supporting our families to know how they work with students who perhaps need a little bit extra help. And it's through our Central Valley Regional Center. So school board, you may recall when we were last together, I asked you to approve our opportunity to become a vendor to provide this service for Central Valley Regional Center, which you graciously allowed us to do. So once we have that, let me show you a bit of the why. Can you move me, Mr. Brown? I don't know, it's working. No. There we go. I don't know. So this is a graph I want to just share with you just to show the impact of what we're seeing. So last year in the 23-24 school year, I had 791 referrals to special education. That means students who were thinking perhaps could benefit from some additional support. So that's from our preschool through 12th grade system, right? Of those 791, 643 of them came from preschool. That's 81% of the referrals that we had last year were attributed to these young kiddos. Now, we're not suggesting we don't want to take care of those students by any means. What we are suggesting is, wow, could we start working with those students, those 643 of them potentially, before they get to preschool, offering them the help they need so that by the time they hit us, they'll be more prepared for success. So what does that look like? So again, our opportunity is to build that partnership with the parents early on to provide them some of those skills that will help them really work with their students. Again, it's an in-home setting. It gives them the opportunity to work with their students based on where they are, recognizing where they'd like to go. And again, this takes place in a school, in the home setting. And I want you guys to recognize, and Mr. Hernandez is going to talk about this in a second, this is not having a financial hit on us. It's not going to be an expense we have to recognize, and it's not going to take away from any of the service we're currently providing. So I don't want you to fear that, gosh, all the great things we've started in special education, that's going to be impacted by this. And how I mean that is, look at this 4-year trajectory of what this program is going to look like. What you're going to see on this first slide is for this current school year, coming in January, really, we plan on working with just about 100 students. And to do that, we're going to need 21 staff members to do so. As the years progress, you will see that we are increasing both the number of students we're going to be working with and the number of staff members required to provide those supports. So you're probably thinking, oh, Candy, at the end of 4 years, we're going to have 53 employees and it's not going to cost us anything. How's that possible? So my good friend, Mr. Hernandez, is going to help us with that answer. Yeah. No problem.
So thank you. As Mr. DeMayo explained, the district becomes a contractor through the Central Valley Regional Center, CVRC. And there is a cost to the program. So there's a cost. Those staff do cost money, but our teams have worked together, Lisa Garcia in budget, Tina Shirley and his team, over the last 6, 7, 8 months to build out what the staffing looks like, as well as the financial cost. And so we would work with CVRC to develop the reimbursement and the reimbursable rate so that all of our costs are covered. So we would have staff that we would pay, and we would set up the funding sources within the district, but all of those costs would be fully covered by that reimbursable rate through CVRC. So just to make sure that that's clear. And we looked at first year and startup is about $2.5 million, and that includes the staffing, facilities, and other things. And as we get out to year 4, it's about $6 million in expense that, again, reimbursed through CVRC.
Can I ask a question super briefly? So when we're talking about our service providers, they would be our staff. They're not contract people. So they would be part of our like labor unions and that sort of thing. Just kind of wanting to make that clear.
Absolutely. So
Okay.
it's thinking of us as providing a contracted service to the community, but utilizing our people to do so. So absolutely, they're part of our bargaining units, they're our teaching staff. Again, and what I didn't mention is it's probably no surprise to a lot of us. We've been talking about this the last few years. Since the pandemic, we've seen an increase in lots of needs out in our community. Unfortunately, the community has not been able to keep up with those needs. So they've reached out to us asking if we can help support that, knowing that we've got the talent in our ranks to be able to kind of lead something like that. So great question. All right. So what that's going to look like. So again, we are waiting on Central Valley Regional Center to consider our proposal and offer us back the approval to do that. Once they do that, they will be sending us over startup funds to kind of get going on the cost. In coming years, we're going to need space for them, offices, those type of things. And then it's also our opportunity to look into further developing out this campaign, hiring staff so that we can start surfacing our students in that second semester, so in the coming new calendar year. And with that said, I'm here to answer any questions you might have about this.
Any board questions? All right, it's information only, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Local Control Accountability Plan update, presenter Administrator Jim Sullivan.
Good evening, Board President Gaby, Mr. Strum. I'm here to share with you the required updates that the county has asked us to change in our LCAP. We're here to support, and obviously the LCAP is designed to support our students, just as every student's learning every day. This is the timeline that the county uses to approve our LCAP. We start in February or in June. When you approve our LCAP, we then send it to the county by July 1st. In July and August, they review our LCAP and make suggestions. And the goal is that they have to have our LCAP approved by October 1st. The changes that they've asked us to look at and change are pretty simple, basic changes. One is adding a student group in red to address college and career readiness. If you remember, one of the new requirements is that for every student group by school, we have to write in the LCAP. In the past, we asked that they would be written into their single school plans. Now it's required to be in our LCAP. So in this process, we skipped 2 student groups at one of our school sites. So they caught that, so we had to add that. Another addition that they asked us to do was add a metric for each school and each student group in our LCAP. So I had to change and add that as well in our LCAP. And another one the last one was to really look at some of our actions and making sure that they truly are focused on our unduplicated students, which are our English learners, our low-income students, and our foster youth. So those are the things that we made some changes on. And finally, they wanted us to share our budget. You can see it's kind of small, but our budget as a district is 477 million. The county or the LCAP is 93 million. So it's around 20% of our budget is written into our LCAP. The other part of this is at the bottom, you can kind of see it's really small, is how our LCAP is broken up. So out of the 68 million of expense, 68 million of the 93 million are supplemental concentration funds, which we receive based on our unduplicated students. In addition, 10 million is state funds like for grants and stuff like that we've received. And the last is another 10 million of expenditures for our federal funds. So that's really just an update on our LCAP. And do you have any questions?
What were the specific groups of students that were left out?
It was students with disabilities at Mount Whitney and English learners at Mount Whitney.
Got it. Thank you.
I just wanted to make a comment. Today I went to a VPI meeting and one of our focuses this year is on the college and career readiness for our students with disabilities and our ELD students. So there's going to be a real focus there because what we found is they weren't pathway completers. And now there's going to be a focus to complete those 2 groups to complete a pathway.
And in fact, I'm glad you said that because the action for those 2 students groups is the counselor will be monitoring and focusing more on those students. So thank you.
Awesome. All right, that is information only as well. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now going to open a public hearing to allow for public comment on this item. The public hearing and resolution conveying easement to Tulare County at Blue Oak Academy. Chief Operations Officer Eric Kier.
Good evening, President Gaby, Superintendent Schrum, members of the board. This is a routine item to convey a small piece of property to Blue Oak Academy to widen the road in front of the school. We are asking for approval of this.
Is there any public comment? Any board member comments? Okay, then I will now close the public hearing and reconvene the regular session. May I have a motion to approve the resolution conveying easement to Tulare County at Blue Oak Academy?
I'll motion.
Second.
On a motion by board member Case-Beer-Soleno and a second by board member Gamoyen.
Motion passes. Student board member voting yes, 6 yes, 1 absent.
Do you want Nathan? Gonna stand in for, oh, there he is. Perfect.
Just in time. Notice of intent to employ certificated personnel and approval of provisional internship permit request. Assistant Superintendent of HRD, Ben Dillon.
Why, thank you, Board President. I am here to request that the board approve a provisional internship permit for a education specialist who will be joining our district and working towards the requirements to earn their internship credential.
May I motion to approve the resolution?
I so move.
Second.
On a motion by board member Belt and a second by board member Odo.
Motion passes. Student board member voting yes, 6 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you.
Potential refinancing of 2015 general obligation bonds, Measure E. Chief Business Officer Nathan Hernandez.
Well, good evening, President Gaby and members of the board, Superintendent Schrum. I've got the dream team up here and we're going to share some information on our Measure E bonds. These were the bonds that were issued in 2015. Measure E was our 2012 bond issuance. And Measure E completed Ridgeview Middle School, the academic building at Redwood, modernization at Golden West, Goshen, Ivanhoe, Mineral King, Crowley, Washington, and the first phase of solar. So Lori Ranieri and Keith Weaver are here from Government Financial Services, JPA, and they're going to share some great news for our taxpayers who generously supported our Measure E bonds. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be back with you. For those in the audience who don't know me, I'm Lori, this is Keith, and this is Millie. She slept through most of the prior presentations. Anyway, board, community, administrators, educators, we have some great news about something that we're going to try to make exciting, but you might imagine my family always hopes I don't talk about my work. So, and what we're going to talk about is fiscal stewardship. This board has been very attentive to managing the things that cause taxes to go up, and we try to get them to go down. And this is one of those things that you don't have an obligation to do this. You put bond measures forward, the voters have approved them, you've provided facilities, and a lot of districts don't really pay attention to what happens after that, but this board does. And so tonight, and oh, good. See, Keith knows I can't talk, hold a pen, have my dog, and click. So he's clicking for me. So we're going to talk about the district's, what I like to think of as the district's debt portfolio. We're going to talk about refinancing some Measure E bonds, as Mr. Hernandez says, and then we're going to talk about the bond sale process. There's more information in this packet that I'm not going to go over, but if you have a question about it, I'll be glad to address. So the district has, in what I think of as the modern era, the last 25 years, the district has had 3 successful bond elections. Measure G has been fully repaid. Measure E, we've sold all the bonds and we're repaying those bonds now. And Measure A, we are both repaying some bonds that we issued and we're ready to issue some more. We also used other kinds of financings that fall into the category of lease financing, certificates of participation, which are a form of lease financing, and we budget for those payments directly out of our budget. So on this page, you can see that one of the things we're monitoring is how much we've issued, how much we've paid down, how many years remaining, what we can sell again. And then we're going to go to the next page and talk about the call date, because people often think that refinancing opportunities come because interest rates go down. They actually don't have to go down, but that's very helpful. And the reason the call date is important gets back to this idea that when we issue debt, we have this debt portfolio, but all the metrics are the opposite of an investment portfolio. An investment portfolio, you want to earn a lot of interest and have it last a long time. We want to pay as little interest as possible and have it go away as quickly as possible. That's the way we manage that on behalf of the taxpayers. And so I always say we set the alarm clock when we know we're going to have call dates, because we literally have a call option, and you've probably heard jokes about pork belly options or something like that. Or if you're in finance, you actually know this is a very serious subject, and I'll talk to you after. But we reserve the right when we sell bonds, when it's appropriate, to have a call option, which means we can pay it off early, and sometimes we can just pay it off early with cash. Sometimes we actually issue new debt to replace it. So the debt that we have coming up with call options this year are some Measure E 2015 bonds, and then some of our certificates of participation. And so we'll look at the next page, and what we can see is that of the ones that are coming up this year, only one of them has a market circumstance which warrants refinancing, and that the market is below where it is. And all the other debt that we have, we know when the call options are. We will continue to monitor this. So this is a process where the refinancing doesn't drop out of a parachute and we say, oh, look what's arrived. We're actually looking out in the future, and we can see when those opportunities are coming. So we try to optimize them. So we'll go ahead. And this is the language in our Measure E Series 2015 bonds that provided for the prepayment options. And you can tell that this is written by an attorney, but those of us in finance, we know how to read this. And what it says is that the 19.67 million of bonds that we have outstanding now are callable, meaning we can tell the investors, you have to give those back to us. And they don't want to because they're have an interest rate that's above market, 4.11%. But that's exactly why we want them back, because we're going to take them back and we're going to replace them with bonds at a lower interest rate. So we'll go to the next page. And one of the things that we do, even in years when we're not doing any issuing or refinancing, we're always looking at tax rates. And we are very fortunate that the county is very cooperative, and Mr. Hernandez maintains a really good relationship with the county auditor controller. And I want to say, this is again a very esoteric topic, and a lot of people are involved in getting it right. There's a lot of different statutes that apply, and being able to talk things over with them and work things out is very important to us. And you can see that working things out is really evident if you look at our historical Measure E tax levies, because you can see that many times the tax rate is just kept the way it was the year before. And that's because the county does something we call smoothing the tax rate, because there's so many funds on hand and interest earnings on the funds on hand, it could be bouncing up and down a lot, and they try to keep it relatively steady. And if we just continue the way we are, here's where the tax rates were projected to go with the last year of taxation in 2041-42. But we're going to look at the next page. And this is a little confusing until you remember that when we sell bonds, it's not like a mortgage with one interest rate. Every year of principal gets its own interest rate. So it's like if you sell a mortgage, isn't it strange that you pay the same amount of interest on the money you borrowed for 30 days and the money that you borrowed for 30 years? Well, that's the retail view of what's happening. Really, the money that you borrowed at 30 days has a 30-day interest rate on it, and the money that you borrowed for 30 years has a 30-year interest rate on it, and that's what derivatives are. But that's, again, out in the hallway after. I'll discuss that for anybody who wants to. My point is, every piece of principal that we have outstanding has an interest rate on it that's based on how long that principal is outstanding. So when we are thinking about refinancing, we're not looking at one interest rate. We're looking at the interest rates on every year of principal of bonds that we have outstanding. And then we're looking at what could we replace that. And what we can see is that oddly, the bonds that we have outstanding have higher interest rates in the shorter years. That's kind of what we call an inverted yield curve. And then we're looking at what we could refinance them. And you can see that at every maturity, we could just lower the interest rates. However, we saw an opportunity there because our tax rates were well below the target tax rate that the voters approved. And we realized we could keep our promise with the voters, our expectation of tax rates, and start paying faster. And that's just like someone might say, I'm going to pay an extra $100 on my mortgage, right? Well, how much can you afford to pay extra? Well, we thought this is what we told the voters the tax rates would be. So why just let the tax rates drift? Let's get them back up there and pay the bonds off early. And we can actually reduce the time the bonds are outstanding by 10 years, which is really exciting and it's quite significant. So we're going to take and we still have bonds. Even if we do that with these bonds, we'll have bonds that are outstanding beyond that window that we're shortening to. And so we'll shorten those later. Does that make sense? When their call date comes up? So what we're doing is, think again about that investment portfolio example. When investments mature, you reinvest, you're trying to keep the thing going. We're going to do the opposite. When the call dates come up, we're going to be shortening and trying to get them paid off earlier. And so we have the principal outstanding for less time and also at a lower rate because we're at the lower end of the yield curve. So we're going to look at page 11. And so you can see what we want to do is take all those interest rates that we have outstanding and kind of shove them into the low end of the yield curve by issuing shorter debt. Does that make sense? Now, in the retail world, like for your home mortgage, you might think about that's like taking a 30-year mortgage. You're 5 years in, so you have 25 years left, but you put it into a 15 because the 15 still has a lower rate than you could get on a 25. Does that make sense? And I won't be giving retail advice in the hallway because I'm not licensed to do that. But if you're wondering, do I have a mortgage? No. And the reason I don't have a mortgage is because I did exactly this. I refinanced like 3 times in the first few years, and then I paid it off, right? So it makes me happy. It's also good for the budget. Okay, so the idea of the savings here is in the corner, the lower corner, we can actually save our taxpayers over $5 million. Now, if I was bringing a new business to this community and I said, I'm going to put $5 million into the pockets of all the taxpayers here, I'd probably get a ticker tape parade. Or you know what? I'd get those dancers. Well, I got 'em. Okay, so we're going to go to page 12. And so we're restructuring the debt because we're moving it forward. We're doing it at different interest rates. And we're actually going to force the tax rate up in the short term, but to drop off the back end. Now, all of this is based on our estimates of what we could do. We don't control the market. And if you're in finance, you pay a lot of attention to when they say the Federal Reserve is meeting, right? We pay a lot of attention to Chairman Powell. And what we like him to do all the time is act according to expectations. That's what we like. We don't like surprises in the world of finance. So anytime he ties his tie a little bit differently, we get all nervous. So we have a projection of what this refinancing could do. But what we will do if the board is amenable is that we will go forward with the refinancing and we will execute as long as we fall within the minimum standard. So we're going to go to the next page. Our goal is right now we're estimating over $5 million, but we want to establish a minimum savings. And to establish that minimum savings, we look to best practices. And in this case, we're being guided by Government Finance Officers Association best practice that we have a minimum present value savings of 3%. So that's kind of a big sentence. Present value means in today's dollars is the amount of savings equal to or more than 3% of the amount that we're refinancing. Now, that brings me to something else that I want to say, which is I want to thank you for your membership in GFS JPA. And by becoming a member of GFS JPA, one of the things you committed to was to be guided by public finance best practices, ethics, and transparency. And that's one of the reasons that I'm subjecting you to this presentation. So we'll go to the next page. And we're at, right now, our numbers are 9.2%. So that's triple the minimum. So I'm not really anticipating that we won't be able to conclude this, but exactly how it concludes, there's a lot of getting ready. It's a lot of getting dressed for a very short party because I'm now going to talk about what that party looks like. And I also want to say that if anybody is interested in participating in what I mean by participating, I mean watching other people work on Zoom. We will give them that opportunity, and that opportunity is open to students, staff, citizens, board members, and we have had guests in the past. Now, in the old days, we used to have you come to our office in Sacramento, and I would get the specially good croissants and the really good coffee, and now you get to get that for yourself, and I'll meet you on Zoom. So, the way that we sell bonds to investors is there is a broker-dealer or an underwriter, same thing, or an investment bank. All those words in this context mean the same. It's a firm that takes the bonds from us and they are actually representing the investor. It's their job to make sure it's an appropriate investment for the investor, that the investor has all the information they need. Now we can just pick that firm to do this work, or we could do a competitive process. And we have consistently done a competitive process. We'll go to the next slide. And you can see here at the bottom, there's a table, and you can see the number of bids that we typically have. And so we're typically getting so many bids, there's just not a question in our minds. The competitive sale is recommended by the GFOA best practice guidance, and it is also supported by our history. Now, I have to tell you a good story about Visalia, because you might think, well, all investors in the world want to buy a Visalia bond. So a former superintendent, not one who's in this room, came to Sacramento for a meeting. And this superintendent was very interested in bodybuilding. And while we were having lunch in a Sacramento restaurant, the governor came in, sat one table away. And that governor was also a bodybuilder. So the Visalia superintendent got very excited. And I said, would you like me to introduce you to the governor? And he said, do you know him? And I said, no, but I will be glad to introduce you. So I walked up and I said, Governor Schwarzenegger, may I introduce you to Superintendent Carrizosa? And he leaned in to shake his hand. And I heard him say, south of Fresno, north of Bakersfield. So at that time, Visalia was the fastest growing city, and the governor was not quite sure where it was. So the point is that we don't necessarily expect investors to know everything about Visalia. We expect the underwriters to protect their interests and do their due diligence. And so when they give us a bid on the sale day, their credit people have looked at it, they've done all their due diligence, and their trader is authorized by the back people, the due diligence, credit, legal, whatever, to go ahead and submit that bid. So there's all this process getting to that party. So like I said, we take a long time to get dressed, and then it happens really fast. So we'll go to page 18, because you might be wondering when I'm going to finish, and we're getting really close. So tonight is information. The October 8th meeting would be action, where you adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance of the bonds, and you would be delegating to staff the opportunity to conclude that process. On October 24th, that's the day that you get the good coffee and the good croissant, and you meet us on Zoom. And you might be wondering, why is it a croissant and not an egg salad sandwich? It's because it's in the morning. And why is it in the morning? Because we will expect bidders from across the United States. So we're in California, so we got to deal with people all the way to the other side of the country. So we start early. So if this is something that you are interested in, and that goes for people, anybody in this room or anybody who's interested, Mr. Hernandez will be very happy to talk with you about your availability and make sure you have the opportunity. But what you actually have the opportunity to do is to watch me describe what other people are doing. Okay, so now I want to say, I've had mixed reactions. I've had some people who say, this is so exciting. I have a citizen in one of our districts that he's a citizen. He's never been on the school board, but he's been on the bond oversight committee, and he's very active. When we used to do it in our office, he would come to every sale they had. He was always very excited. He would remember what happened in the last one. And one time I had a school board member come to a sale, and it was summertime. She brought her son who was out of school, and he liked it so much. We were doing a different district. The next day he came back and he helped us again. Now, on the other hand, I've also had people say this is like watching paint dry. So please be judicious in your enthusiasm. If you'd like to come, we'd love to have you, but there's no obligation, because if you give us the authorization on October 8th, we are going to proceed on October 24th unless there is a problem. And that's when I want to bring up one other thing. We are living in a world with a lot of disasters, and a lot of things happen. I have never had to postpone a sale more than 2 days. And I've actually been able to have them in the wake of disasters. Sometimes there's been some issue that it needed to wait, but the more common reason that we delay a sale is because some other issuer is going to flood the market. And Mr. Hernandez is very familiar with that. We're always watching what the state of California is doing, because investors who want to buy a state of California bond are exactly the kind of people who might want to buy a Visalia bond. And the reason for that is that these bonds are, if you're a California taxpayer, they're double tax-free. Tax-free from the federal income tax, tax-free at the state level. So it isn't a good investment unless you're either a California resident or you live in a tax-free state. I don't want to mention what those are because people might be running for the border. But there are people who live in other states that might buy California bonds because of that reason. So on November 7th, that's when the bond proceeds would be deposited. And on November 19th, we would come back for another presentation if you'll have us. So with that, I'll conclude and see if there are any questions. Thank you.
Any questions?
Well, thank you for taking Greek and making it in English. But I do have, okay, I want to clarify. So because they're on call, is that what you call it?
They're callable.
Callable, we're taking them back and reselling them.
We're actually doing new bonds.
New
with lower
bond.
interest rates that we sell.
Okay.
And we'll get the money from that, and that's
And
why we get
pay
the money
off-
and pay off the old ones.
That's amazing.
So that is not really different than if you go to a bank and you're gonna get a new loan, you're gonna pay off your
The old loan, okay.
And it could be the case that some of the buyers of the new bonds held the old bonds. They might have liked it for whatever reason. That's fine too.
Okay. Oh, that's exciting.
Do we get a new outfit for the bond sale party?
Well, because we do it on Zoom, you supply that yourself.
All right. And back to our dream team, Nathan Hernandez. I think this is information only. Okay, so I'll conclude there and go to issuance of general obligation bond measure A.
So this is our Measure A bond. So different bonds. These were approved by voters in 2018, and we issued the first series. So this would be the second series of bonds. And as Mr. Shrum mentioned, we are going out to the community to gather input into those community workshops to put together the bond plan. This allows us to have that cash on hand and ready to take action once we have that plan and we bring that back to the board. So I'm going to turn it back over to GFS.
And let me just introduce Mr. Keith Weaver. He's our Director of Services. And he has been working in the background on your work for many years, but this is his first time being with you. So let's give him a warm welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. So I just have a very brief update for you on our Measure A bonds. And so I'll just quickly review Measure A and then talk about issuing our next series of bonds and then wrap up with some next steps. So just by way of review, Measure A was our November 2018 election. It received a lot of community support with a voter approval rate of over 60%, which is tremendous. And you can see the measure in the text there. Really just some highlights. It was to help fund some really important facilities projects here in the district by authorizing $105.3 million of bonds. And the estimated tax levy was $36 per 100,000 of assessed value. So in thinking about issuing our next series of bonds, one of the things we think about is where interest rates are. And you've probably heard in the news about interest rates being high. There can be mortgage rates of 7% or 8%, but I'd like to share with you a benchmark index of interest rates. This is called the Bond Buyer 20 Bond Index. And you can see this goes back to 2018. And we were planning the measure, the benchmark was at 3.89%. And when we issued our first series of bonds in 2020, the index was down to 2.21%. And where it is currently is about 3.88%. So while it is higher than last time, it's really not that high. It's right about where it was in 2018, which is fantastic. And the reason it's fantastic is because we had budgeted for interest rates to go up. And because they're right about where they were, we can save a lot of interest cost, and that will really help us with an opportunity to improve Measure A and make it better for our taxpayers. And so by way of review, we issued in 2020 $35.17 million, and our plan is to issue the final remainder of $70.13 million of bonds. So this will complete the funding that we receive from Measure A. And our estimate is that we've conservatively estimated how much upfront costs there'll be, but after these upfront costs for issuing the bonds, we conservatively estimate there'll be $69.16 million for our facilities program. And so this money will go to work in terms of improving our facilities. And then on the taxpayer side, so these bonds are repaid by our property taxes. Again, the estimate was $36 for a maximum. And you can see historically in the dark blue, they've been well below that. They're currently at $25. And we estimate that we can complete this final round of bonds, keep tax levies well below that $36 maximum. And also we'll get to end the taxes sooner. And we're currently estimating the taxes will end 7 years sooner. So that will be a nice benefit for our taxpayers. So in terms of next steps, it's basically a parallel track to what was just shared on the refinancing, which is that we'd ask for you to consider taking action on October 8th. And then with your approval, we'd have the sale on the same day on October 24th. We'd lock in interest rates, and then we'd proceed toward closing on November 7th. And on that day, the funds would be transferred to the district's account at the county, and the funds will be available to put toward our facilities program. And then on November 19th, we'll be back to share with you the results in terms of how everything turned out. So thank you, and happy to take any further questions.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we sell these bonds.
Yes.
And we end up with 69.1 million.
Yes.
And then do we actually get that cash and we put it somewhere and we can earn interest on that?
Yes, so I believe the plan is to deposit the funds at the county pool.
Okay,
And the county pool earns interest, and so we will benefit from that interest.
Okay.
rates.
until we use the money.
Correct.
Any other board questions? Okay, this is not an action.
Hang on.
Oh, go
So
for it.
question for Nathan. Okay, and you and I talked about this last night in, terms of being clear here. We're not selling these bonds now so we can rush to buy something or build something. What we're doing is anticipating implementation of strategic plans. So when we're ready to roll, we've got the money and we can go.
Absolutely. We talked about our $700 million in needs for our, our facilities and maintenance and upkeep. And this is going to help do some modernization projects as well as we know we're going to need construction, new facilities once we have the plan for our long range facilities, short term and long term through the community.
Right on. And in addition to that, the timing is great because the interest levels are great right now.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I also believe, if my history serves me right, that I don't know if we promised, but we told the community we would not use that money unless they approved what we were going to use it for. So that's another reason to come to our community meetings to see how we want to use that money.
All right. Any other questions? And good plug for the community meetings. All right. Thank you again. Fiscal year 2023-24 unaudited actuals, Chief Business Officer Nathan Hernandez.
Okay, I'll be here for the rest of the night. So this is our much anticipated unaudited actuals report for 23-24. So this is the final report on our actions, on our budget for the 23-24 fiscal year. And as we've talked about, the budget and our revenues are how the board implements their core beliefs and commitments. And so each of these are addressed with how we spend our funding. So we're going to talk a little bit about the purpose of the report, what it means, and then at a high level, the revenues and expenditures within the general fund and other funds for the year. So what are the unaudited actuals report? It is, like I said, it's the final report for last fiscal year. It's the final accounting of all of the district's financial transactions as of June 30th. So it's a point in time report. It is required by Ed Code. And so we filed this report with our county office before September 15th. And it's used by our external auditors to prepare our annual financial report, which we'll bring to the board in January. And that's completed in the middle of December 15th. So what are the questions that it helps us answer? Are we living within our means? Do we spend more money than we receive, or are we deficit spending? The question is kind of, because we know we have one-time funds within our district that we've received over the last several years. And so we are spending down those balances. And so what that looks like when you receive revenue in one year and you spend it over the next few years, it looks like deficit spending, but we are spending down those balances from prior fiscal years. And so we'll show that in the report. Was the district able to meet our required reserve? And that is at 3%. And we are meeting our required reserve at 3%. Our reserve in this report is close to 9%. And we have some other designations as well. The state no longer has a cap of 10% on our reserves. And so we are able to go above that percentage now. And when we add up all of our ending balances, we are over 10%. And then fiscal solvency of the rest of the district's funds, and all of the district's funds have a positive ending fund balance. So we get to check mark all of those as yes. So in our accounting cycle, we are always working in 2, sometimes 3 years. And so we're finishing out last year as we are all in the middle of the current year. In January, like I mentioned, we bring the final report for this year, and then we get the governor's budget for the next year. So we'll start on that third year. Again, high level general fund revenue comparison year over year. You can see revenues are down year over year. Primarily that was from one-time funds that we received in 22-23 for our expanded learning, as well as our learning and recovery block grant funds. And then we have kind of offsetting that some additional funding with arts and music and those kind of things. So year over year funding is down, but this is probably the normal level of revenues that we'll see in our budget going forward in that 500 to 550 million range. And that's what it looks like on a pie chart. So about 80% of our funds come from the state of California. You see that big blue section there of LCFF resources, and then the green section of other state revenues. So majority of our funds come from the state. on the expenditure side, you can see an increase in expenditures. And that was, again, as I talked about, use of one-time funds. We did a cost of living adjustment for each of our bargaining units in 23-24, as well as the additional staffing for our PE and art TK3 with the Prop 28 funds. So additional funding, new employee cost, and we have higher cost in the new year, in the current year. My favorite slide of all time, this is actually an Excel spreadsheet that takes and breaks up a dollar, but you can see if we, for every dollar that the district spends, about 75% of that is salaries and benefits. That is down actually a little because we did have a lot of one-time expenditures for things like capital outlay and such. So majority of our funds are our people. We are a people organization. The slide here is our components of our ending fund balances. So talked about the our revenues and expenditures, and you can see that slight deficit. This is focused on our unrestricted side of our budget. So this is the majority of our funds, which are unrestricted, 400 of our 500 million. And you can see there our beginning fund balance, 65 million, and our ending fund balance is 60 million. A lot of that decrease there was due to some facility projects, VCIS namely, spending down some of their ending balances to help build out that facility. And then these are our reserve balances and designations. So it takes that 60 million and breaks it down to the different designations, our carryover balances, and then our unappropriated balance of just over $900,000. These are our other funds, again, just sharing that all of our funds have positive ending fund balances. And our total fund balances are 380 million, general and other funds. So next step, as I mentioned, we're requesting approval of this report tonight, and then it will go to our County Office of Education by the 15th, and then reviewed by our external auditors, and then back here again in January with that final report on the 23-24 fiscal year. And thank you, Ms. Johnson, for all of your work putting this together. If you've looked, we did, I think I had fewer numbers on there than Brianne's presentation. But if you actually look at the document, there's about 150 pages in that report. So it is a very lengthy report and requires a lot of work by our team. So.
Thank you. Questions from the board? What is the percent on cap now? Like we can go over 10%, but is there a cap?
There's not. No. Our board policy is to have it around 15% or at 15%.
Awesome. And thank you for the report. And we do know there's a ton of work that goes into that. So thank you for all of our finance staff. May I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023-24 unaudited actuals report?
Move to approve the most important financial report of the year.
I'll second.
All right, on a motion by Board Member Odo and a second by Case Pierce-Leno.
Student board member votes yes. 6 yes, 1 absent.
And I think she should get some economics credit for tonight's board meeting or something here. Okay. Exemption from required expenditures, classroom teacher salaries. Nathan Hernandez.
So good evening, board. Again, this item is also related to our unaudited actual report. So within that report, we complete a form for classroom expense allocations or CEA. And under the education code, unified districts are required to spend 55% of their funds on certificated salaries and benefits. We are just under 50% as we were last year. We're in that same 50% range. What we can do is request a waiver, though, to show that we have competitive salaries and benefits. And so that's what this waiver is about. The education code hasn't changed in many, many years. And so there are things like technology and student supports and behavior and intervention, materials and supplies, utilities, things that have increased over the years that aren't taken into account. So many districts are in the same position requesting waivers of this ed code.
Any board question? All right. May I have a motion to approve the exemption from required expenditures, classroom teacher salaries?
All motion?
I'll second. On a motion by Board Member Case Beer Soleno and a second by Board Member Gaby, call for a vote.
Motion passes. Student board member votes yes, 6 yes, 1 absent.
All right, I'll now open a public hearing to allow for public comment on this item. The approval of revision of Board Policy 6158, independent study. Chief Business Officer Nathan Hernandez.
Yes, surprise. Good evening, board. So this is a public hearing that's required anytime we make a change to our board policy 6158 for independent study. We're required to hold a public hearing. Through the state budgeting process, the SB 153 had a few changes related to independent study. There are two major changes. One is related to the 3 consecutive day rule around independent study that was waived. And so independent study can now be done after just 1 day. And the allowance for asynchronous instruction to be counted towards apportionment, so attendance credit for students. So we've not adjusted any of our internal policies around that. We're still working through how this could work, but we do need to amend our board policy to comply with the law and to allow us to study any changes that we'd like to make to that. So that's the public hearing for tonight.
Okay, is there any public comment? Any board member comments? All right, I'll close the public hearing and reconvene regular session. May I call for a motion to approve the revision of Board Policy 6158, independent study?
So moved.
Second.
On a motion by Board Member Gamoyen and a second by Board Member Villegas.
Motion carries. Student board member voting yes, 6 yes, 1 absent.
All right, and warrant list, July 26, 2024 to August 30th, 2024. May I have a motion to approve the warrant list for July 26, 2024 to August 30th, 2024?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
On a motion by Board Member Odo and a second by Board Member Case Beer Soleno.
Motion carries. Student board member votes yes, 5 yes, 1 absent, 1 abstention.
All right, the meeting is now adjourned.